This is Shelly Craft. We're coming to you live on SNN Live. We're at the Cambridge House California Resource Conference 2013 in Indian Wells, California. With me, a familiar face, Chris Berry from House Mountain Partners, LLC, a featured speaker here at Cambridge House. Chris, welcome back to SNN Live.
Thanks, Shelly. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So tell our audience that weren't here at this conference what it was that you spoke about.
Sure. So I had the opportunity to speak about what I see still unfolding in the emerging world. We're big believers in quality of life and increasing quality of life in the emerging world. And so what I'm looking for now is metals that sustain that quality of life. Right now I'm really focused on uranium.
You know, in the world that we are existing in the resource world, connecting with uranium right now, you may be a small voice in a large market, but you know, if you stick with uranium, I think personally that you're onto something, because France, I mean, you know, how much energy is based on uranium in Europe?
Well, in Europe, there are about 160 nuclear reactors, and in France specifically, I mean, they get 75 to 80% of their electricity from nuclear. So, you know, in the wake of Fukushima, what's really happened is the spot price of uranium has fallen to about $43 a pound, and the majors like Areva and Cameco and Paladin need spot prices closer to $75 or $80 a pound to get back into the game. So it's a great contrarian opportunity, because I just don't see a lot of majors expanding at this point in time.
I'm going to ask you a question that you kind of have to have an inner view of what's going on in the industry. Tell me about, not uranium, tell me about the new technology in reactors.
Sure. There are a number of different technologies for nuclear reactors, and actually, aside from uranium, you're starting to hear a lot about thorium as well, which is kind of a different ballgame, and it's not something I'm really here to discuss. There are a number of safety enhancements, if you will, with thorium relative to uranium, but you know, there are about 63 nuclear reactors currently under construction globally today, with about another 150 planned, and that goes on top of the 436 reactors that are currently not under construction, I should say, but in operation. So I just think that the growth for the nuclear industry in the next, say, 12 to 24 to 36 months is very healthy.
Now, here's a little known fact that our investors may not really have knowledge of. The accident in Japan was in a reactor that was how old?
At least 30 to 40 years old. You know, I don't know what the specific number is, but that's one of the challenges. A lot of the reactor fleet today is 20, 30, 40 years old, so they've outlived their original licenses. And I always look at it and I say, you know, think about it like driving a car. I mean, would you drive a car that was built in 1968 today? No, the technology today is much safer, much more efficient, and we're seeing the same things in the nuclear industry as well.
So I think that's critical to the critical mass in the critical science of where we're going in the uranium generated nuclear power, is basically the fleet's going to get newer and take the risk out of using uranium. Am I correct?
Well, the fleet's certainly going to get newer because it has to. I mean, those 63 nuclear reactors I mentioned under construction, they're not using 40-year-old technology. They're using current-day technology. So that's one of the other reasons why I'm optimistic about nuclear, and it doesn't mean that, you know, unfortunate incidents can't happen. I mean, they can always happen no matter what. But given the fact that the new reactors are a little bit smaller in size and have enhanced safety measures put in place, I'm bullish on uranium going forward because of that, amongst other issues.
Where does China sit in this mix?
Well, of the 63 nuclear reactors under construction, 17 of them are currently under construction in China. And in the wake of Fukushima, China basically put the brakes on and said, look, we're going to make sure that, you know, our reactor sites aren't on faults or, you know, any of the types of things that happened at Fukushima. So they have recently announced the go-ahead with their nuclear construction, but they are slowing it down slightly. So it's just going to...
China slowing it down is an oxymoron. Right. I mean, but let me ask you another question. How long will it be before China has the largest new fleet of nuclear reactors in the world? Let's cut to the chase.
Well, they're looking at, I think, quadrupling the amount of electricity generated from nuclear from today by about 2020. So in the next 7 years, I don't know if it'll be the largest fleet on a sort of a per reactor basis, but it'll certainly be close in the next 7, 8, 9 years.
Okay, now let's jump to the real crux of this information that you're transferring to our investors. Where is the uranium coming from? I mean, is China a net buyer? Are they a net seller? Are they even a producer? That's really the question, ladies and gentlemen.
China is a net buyer. I don't believe there's any uranium production coming out of China. If there is, it's scant. The majority of uranium production today comes from Kazakhstan, Canada, and Australia. I think in that order. And one of the reasons why I like uranium going forward is I just see a looming supply-demand imbalance in favor of increased demand over the next 12 to 24 months.
And last but not least, what I really think is important is, where does the United States stand, and Canada, by the way, North America, stand in the uranium mix as buyers, suppliers, users? Because that's really what investors also want to know.
Sure. Well, just to take the United States for a minute, I mean, we import about 95% of the uranium that we burn on in a given year. And one of the reasons why, very briefly, why I'm interested in uranium right now is the megatons to megawatts agreement between the United States and Russia, which is a 20-year agreement where the Russians essentially supply uranium to the U.S. It's about to end, and it's about to end this year. That could, I'm not saying it will, but that could take 24 million pounds of uranium off the global market, and that's actually 50% of what we burn in the United States by the end of this year.
So when you say to buy uranium, how do you do it? What are you talking about?
Well, I mean, from an investor perspective?
Yes.
So, you know, you wouldn't obviously want to buy the actual yellow cake. Maybe you would.
You mean you don't take delivery?
Yeah, maybe you would. You know, we're obviously very interested in the junior shares and the junior markets, and that's why we're here. I'm here at the conference talking about this. I look for those junior uranium companies that are well-funded, permitted, and in safe geopolitical jurisdictions. And there are a number in Wyoming, and actually one in Europe that I'm very interested in as well.
And to find out more information on those particular companies, they would have to come to which website?
Sure. Well, we have a free newsletter that we write that focuses on these discovery opportunities, and you can subscribe at discoveryinvesting.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chris Berry, House Mountain Partners, LLC, a featured speaker at Cambridge House, and pretty much the uranium guy these days. We're at Cambridge House, California, Resource Conference 2013 in Indian Wells, California. I'm Shelly Kraft. This is SNN Live. Chris, always a pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You got it.